Thank you, Jamie.
Alrighty, everyone. Welcome to this week's Texas Counts Weekly Update. We just went live on Facebook and we just opened up the webinar. So I'm just going to give it a few minutes for everyone to jump on here. And thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll get started soon. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to this week's Texas Counts Census Update. Today is Monday, August 31st. As some of you may already have figured it out, this isn't Katie. My name is Jamie Tercios Vialta, and I'm the Census Community Engagement Intern for Every Texan. I'll be stepping in for today's weekly update, and today I'm joined by Dr. Lila Valencia from the Texas Demographic Center and Miss Genesis Sanchez from the Naleo Educational Fund. And we're so excited to have everyone join on this week. And per usual, we have our welcome. And so we hope everyone is staying safe. And thank you everyone for jumping on today. And once again, we hope everyone is safe, especially for those who have been affected by the hurricane. And Genesis is going to run us through the 2020 census updates, and then we're going to jump with Dr. Lila Valencia, who's going to take us through the data today, and then we're going to end everything off with some Get Out the Count effort updates, and then lastly, some Q&A questions. And so please feel free to use the chat box today and Q&A box for those tuning in via Zoom. If you're viewing via Facebook, please feel free to use the comment section and we'll make sure to answer any questions at the end. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Let's go ahead and get started. And so I'll pass it over to Genesis.
Thank you, Jamie. Really appreciate your help. And thank you everybody for joining us. Like Jamie said, we hope you're doing well. And especially those who may have been impacted by the hurricane, please know that we're also here as a resource for you all. Before I get started, I also want to say thank you to a lot of the reporters and journalists who join our calls or watch our recordings. We really appreciate you sharing the word about the importance of the 2020 census. Please know that we're here as a resource and that we'd be happy to get on the phone and have a direct conversation with you if you ever need anything from us as well. But we really appreciate everyone's continued effort. We know this has been a really long haul. I know someone the other day reminded me, this must be really tiring because no one expected to be working on the census for this long, but I really appreciate all of everybody's efforts. And so with that, I'll get us started. Next slide, please. Thank you, Jamie. So these next two slides are slides that I've shared before. I'm not going to cover them. I just want to keep these up in case anyone is calling in and they haven't seen these before. But this is more specifically around NERFU and what you should expect. NERFU does end on September 30th. So if you need any information around that, these two slides will have that covered. Next slide, please. And this slide, as you all know, has more specific resources around NERFU. Next slide. So about the latest operational updates for the census, on August 17th, the Census Bureau released a press release that was a review of their 2020 census operational plan. It was a little disappointing. You can take a look at it here through this link. It has a PDF of what their last remaining operations will look like. There are still some questions we had around it, but do know that that's a resource there if you'd like to take a look at it. It mostly talked about incentives for enumerators, the plan around NERFU, and then the kind of quickness in which they're going to try to wrap up all the data before December 31st. On August 21st, they followed up with a press release around the 2020 Census User Experience Survey, which is a survey that is being conducted to gauge the quality of having, for those who may have done the census online. The Census Bureau does kind of operational surveys quite often. They want to make sure that the experience around doing a survey is easy and intuitive. This is always kind of sometimes difficult because we want to be clear about what's going on in the field. So some people may get follow-up calls. As we've mentioned before, the Bureau is following up with phone calls, emails, and obviously in person. And so this may be another part of it. Just know that it could be on your radar as well. I wanted to make sure to cover the last key dates of September now that we're here and right at the cusp of September 1st. But do know that between September 3rd and the 28th, the Bureau will be counting people in transitory locations. So people who live in marinas, RV parks, circuses, etc., will be counted during this time. Between September 22nd and the 24th, this is when service-based enumeration for people who are experiencing homelessness will happen. So we're talking about people this is a process in which the Bureau counts people who are experiencing homelessness when they are at a service-based location. So this may be a food bank, a housing situation, or something else. Between September 23rd and 24th, this is when the outdoor count of people experiencing homelessness will happen. And then on September 30th, as we know, it will be the last day to respond to the 2020 census. However, one key thing that I want to remind people of is that although September 30th is the last day to respond over the phone and via the online portal, if people mail back their paper questionnaire on September 30th, it must be postmarked by September 30th account and it must be received by October 7th. So if you are sharing, the message about getting out the count, telling people to fill out the form and they prefer to do it by paper, please tell them to do it as quickly as possible and to send it in a way before September 30th. As we all know, there are a lot of delays with USPS and we don't want to risk someone not being counted. Self-response is still the best way to get counted in the 2020 census, and we want to make sure everyone has a fair shot of getting counted as well. So keep that in your back pocket. Next slide. In addition, the Bureau is going to be sending out a 7th mailing. At first, we didn't know what this would look like, but the Bureau has plans now to send a 7th mailing, which is a paper questionnaire to non-responding households in a census tract that originally had received an internet first mailing in March. So these households originally did not receive a paper questionnaire, but they are only sending them to those places if they also live in a census tract that has less of a self-response rate than 65% in late July. So this is a little confusing. CUNY has, if you use a CUNY map, they actually have a button that you can click, and I noted it here with the final paper questionnaire mailing. And so you can see these, like this slight pinkish red is where they're going to be mailing this 7th mailing. So if people do ask questions or have questions about getting an additional paper form, you may be able to tell them by looking up their address through this or looking at their tract. And this is probably the easiest way that you can do so. Hopefully, again, this will be beneficial. This will be sent out in mid-September. If you do want to do something of a small campaign around it, we highly encourage that. But do let people know, again, that if once they get it, they need to send it back immediately in order to ensure that it gets counted. Next slide. The Bureau also has a kind of a 30 days out campaign. And so this is one of the images that was sent over to us. They have videos that you can share both in Spanish and English of what enumerators look like, of what a person should expect at the door. And so if you want to use those resources, they're here. Next slide. And then in addition, we have a back to school, we have a lot of back to school resources from Naleo Educational Fund. Today at 1 p.m. right after this call, we're going to have a webinar titled Final Push to Get Kids Counted in the 2020 Census. And so I'll throw in the registration link right after I'm done. But please, if you are someone who works with children or very young children and want to learn more about how we're kind of getting that final push out, please join us. There's no restrictions, obviously. And then we also have our back to school toolkit, which has a lot of graphics, messages, tweets, social media, pre-made social media messages, letters to schools, what have you. So it's chock full of information and tools. Please, please, please make use of it if you would like. I'll also link it into the chat. Next slide. And then for some last resources that we have, we created a NERFU guidance for partners. So it's here both in English and Spanish. And then we also updated our census FAQs both in English and Spanish as a way to have this available to you all. I'll also make sure to link it in the chat. And then for those who will be transitioning or already transitioning into GOTC, please note that we've also published a NALEO 2020 Latino Election Handbook. And this is around the Latino electorate and a lot of information about how we're voting. I'm pretty sure it's a nonpartisan tool, so please make use of it if you'd like. And I also want to encourage people, I have a kind of a mailing list. If you're on it, you probably have gotten a handful of emails from me in the past few months. But I'll be using this as I also transition into doing GOTC work. GOTV work. I'll also be working on the 2020 election. We will be sending out a lot of GOTV material, both online and in person. So if you are someone who's still working in the field and are going to be getting out the vote, please join our mailing list so you can see when we're going to be sending out things and you can sign up and ask for them as well. And I think with that, that's all the slides that I have. As always, I'm here as a resource. I'm here to answer any questions. And again, thank you all for joining us. Back to you, Jamie.
Thank you, Genesis. That was great. Thank you so much for sharing all of that, especially the toolkits and the connectiveness between Get Out the Count efforts and Get Out the Voting efforts. And I don't think we have any questions, so we're going to go ahead and pass it over to Lila.
Thanks, Jamie. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We are 30 days out, 30 full days before the end of the count for the 2020 census. And so we're really grateful you have hung in there with us. And let me go ahead and share with you where we are right now. Next slide, please, Jamie. So this slide just covers the resources that we're using to put together the information on the data update. So the Census Bureau self-response and Tableau dashboard with rankings, the CUNY hard to count map. You'll recall from Genesis' presentation, has a lot of useful information there too. And then the Texas Demographic Center map and dashboard. And that's what I'll be using to provide the information I've prepared for you today. Next slide, please. So Texas is has been moving up in response rate, self-response rate. We have been adding about 0.1 to 0.2 percentage points per day in the last couple of weeks, really since non-response follow-up started. Now that's separate and apart from non-response follow-up, right? Because self-response is when people go online and respond for themselves, whereas NRFU is when enumerators actually come to the door and respond, collect responses from householders that they then submit to the Census Bureau through that operation. But because of the attention that has been given to the start of NRFU and to the shortened timeline, we've really been able to see a real amping up in self-response rates. So currently we are at 60.1% response rate compared to the national 64.7% response rate. We are tied at 38th with the state of Georgia. And by nationally, we have enumerated 95.7, well, that's inaccurate actually, not enumerated, but 95.7 million households have self-responded. And in Texas, that's 7.3 million households. And then I have a little circle up above where the rankings are. That's where you would click to get to the Tableau dashboard. Next slide, please. This table here looks at total response rate. And so this actually means the total enumeration universe. And so basically what we're looking at is the percent self-response plus the percent enumerated through NRFU, and that gives us our total response rate for the state. So Texas is estimated to be 77.7% totally enumerated. Now the goal for this is 100%, right? So as you can tell, we're still, over 20% left to go during these last 30 days. Texas ranks 38th in self-response, like I mentioned before. We rank 26 in NRFU response. So that means that the Census Bureau has been putting a great effort in Texas in trying to get enumeration done. And so our ranking is higher for non-response follow-up alone. But in total, in terms of total enumeration, we are ranked 40th. So there's still a lot of work to be done. We encourage you to continue all of your efforts because the Census Bureau cannot do this alone. We have, done a lot of the response already to this point for the Census Bureau, but we need to continue to help them with that because you'll notice that between August 9th, when non-response follow-up started in Texas and across the country, and now non-response follow-up has added 17.5%. We still need over 22% to be enumerated, and we only have 30 days left. And so if we are only able to get 17% and not another 22%, then we would have a really severe undercount. And so we really want to make sure that we're able to amp up these efforts for the Census Bureau through self-response. So the more self-response we can encourage, the better. And you can get this table at the link that's right beneath the table there. You can use that link to go see the state number. Unfortunately, the Census Bureau is not releasing lower geography for these types of data, but we have been told that if you reach out to your partnership specialist in your area, they may be able to get you county level data that shows the non-response follow-up in your region. So we would really and highly encourage you to do that so you could get a really good understanding of what the total enumeration is in your area. Next slide, please. And so here we see the response rate by county in the state of Texas, and you can see we have more and more blue areas. There's even blue areas now in parts of the Mexican border, right, the southern border of Texas. So we see El Paso has been over 50% and in blue for a while now. But we start to see other counties like Maverick and Hidalgo. And so this is great. We're absolutely moving in the right direction. We now have 121 counties of the 254 that have 50% and above response rates. And there are some counties that are on the verge of this, and I mean like 49.9%, and those are Rains, Oldham, and Fisher. So if you are working in those areas, definitely encourage self-response there to help them get closer to that or over that 50% mark and really ensure that they are bringing the necessary resources to their area. We only have 3 counties that have met their 2010 census rate. You'll recall we were using this as a sort of gauge to see how close we could get to self-response in 2010. Right now, we only have 3 counties that are there. We have some that are very, very close. Goliad, Parker, Ellis, Lampasas, all of those counties are right at the verge of that 2010 milestone. So if you're working in those areas, again, we encourage you to really reach out to them and really push for those self-response efforts there. The 3 counties that have met the 2010 goal are Jackson, Johnson in North Texas. Jackson is in the coast, and then the other one is Burnett in the Hill Country. Next slide, please. This is the Tableau dashboard from the Census Bureau. And so this is where you're really able to see the rankings as well as the number of housing units at the state and national level that have been, that have responded through self-response. And we have about 700 cities, 708 cities that have response rates of over 50%. And we have 190 cities that have reached their 2010 milestones. Some cities are really close to that 2010 milestone. I've listed them out here. Some of them have been really close for a while now. New Hope is one of them. They're very, very close. They're like at 49. They're like, you know, like a couple of fractions of a percentage point behind. And so if we could get New Hope, Clear Lake Shores, Tiki Island, Bayou Vista, Bridge City, Fayetteville, and Sunset Valley, those areas to their 2010 census rates, then enumerators would have less of a universe to have to work to enumerate door to door. So that would really make sure that those cities would get the resources that they need for the next decade. Next slide, please. Thanks, Jamie. And so this is the last 2 slides that I have. The Texas Demographics Center has put together some real simple PDF maps with 2010 and 2020 response rates. You have the response rate for the US, the state, the county, and then for the particular census tracts shaded in the map at the county level. We also let you know how many households you are away from that 2010 rate. And the reason that we are providing these is because we know that some of you may not have the resources to be able to put some of these materials together, and you might just want to quickly print out a map that you can send to your county judge or send to a city council member, let them know that their area is behind in response rate to the 2020 census, to really sort of give them that, you know, picture is worth 1,000 words kind of motivation to get them to help you in the efforts that you are already doing in the area. And so we will be updating these every Friday. The ones that are up there right now on Friday are for the response rates from Friday that were released by the Census Bureau on Friday. So you'll every Friday you'll get new maps, and we have these available for all 254 counties. So feel free to send the link, share them electronically, or print it out and take it to your council member or your county judge or mayor. Feel free to use it in whatever way you'd like. And that can be found on the link at the bottom, in the bottom left corner of that slide on our website, demographics.texas.gov. And then the last slide that I have is just a reminder that you can also use both of our mapping. The first one has the dashboard with the social characteristics, and then this one that I'm showing here is the self-response rates compared to the 2010 response rate and the number of households needed at the census tract level to reach those 2010 milestones. So please feel free to access that by going to the link that should be, I think I have that in the very beginning of the presentation of the set of slides that I presented today, and you should be able to get access to that map there. And that's all I have, Jamie, unless we have any questions.
Thanks, Lila. I believe we have one question. Let me go ahead and pull it up here. And the question is from Nate, and it's, who should we reach out to for county level data?
So Nate, I'm not sure what area you're in the state, but feel free to reach out to us, and we can definitely connect you with the Census Bureau partnership specialist in your area. And so if you can let us know where you are in the state, we'll be happy to connect you with them.
Thank you so much, Lila.
Mm-hmm.
And alrighty, moving on to Get Out the Count efforts. We're officially 30 days away from the census deadline for September 30th. And so in order to support everyone's efforts, we've created a robust social media campaign, and we've been working to create new social media graphics every week that encourage everyone to complete the census, and just a reminder that to check your mail as well, and also to check in on your neighbors. And you can access all of these graphics and previous graphics at texascounts.org with our toolkit, and you'll be able to view all of our previous and current graphics. And we're also looking, if you're interested in having a more specific graphic, please feel free to reach out to us and or via email, or even through the comments today. We're always willing to create new graphics for everyone, and we can always share those out as soon as possible. And once again, you can reach all of our graphics here on the toolkit. And as we move forward with the time that we have left to get everyone counted, we wanted to share 2 new opportunities that Texas Counts has launched. The first one is the town hall. And so the town hall is an opportunity for people to share their highs and lows and get out the count efforts with their peers, as well as a way to rally around specific calls to actions. It's a great way to connect with others across the state, and it's just another way to tune in with everyone and just really come together. And in the last days that we have to get everyone counted, and just talking about what last minute things that we have to do and last minute ways that we can get everyone counted. And so the first one is this Friday, and the next town hall is September 9th at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, and the theme this for the following week is Make Yourself Seen and Heard and Counted. And so we're really excited to engage with all of you in just getting out the efforts. And then our other event, and so Wednesday, and our other event is the Texas Outreach Hour. And so every Friday until the end of September, we're going to be having the Census Outreach Hour, And we're just dedicating 1 hour for outreach. And it's going to be this Friday. We're going to be offering a crash course on texting for Get Out the Count efforts. And I'll be working with folks on drafting encouraging census text messages and ways to engage with others. And so this is a very informal and conversational event on just supporting each other in ways that we can really engage with either our family, friends, neighbors in getting out the efforts as we close in on the end of September. And so I encourage everyone to sign up if you have time, and we're very excited to work with each and every one of you. And I'm going to go ahead and answer some Q&A questions. And so Nelson's asking, need a handout with census phone in English and Spanish? Yes, I can definitely share that out with you, and I can go ahead and reach out to you personally and sharing that out. And then I'm just going to go ahead and give it a few minutes to see if anyone else has any questions. Alrighty. Thank you everyone for, oh, I think we have one comment here. And so Nate is from ARC of Texas, an organization advocating for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And they're looking for more ways to learn about the census and to share out information via social media and monthly emails. And he was thinking of sharing, they were thinking of sharing information to local county chapters about how to learn specific information about their county census numbers, and that would be great.
Yeah, Nate, I would definitely encourage you to, take some of those county level PDFs and send them out to the counties. And then if you need anything specific for a specific county or anything like that, absolutely, in terms of data, don't hesitate to reach out. We'll be happy to help with any of that.
And with that, I think that's all the questions we have today. Thank you so much, Lila and Genesis, for being part of this presentation today. And thank you everyone for joining. Have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie.
No problem.